Please welcome to the stage Dr. Jinendra Ranka.
Hello. Over the past 2 days, you've been presented a snippet of DARPA from the people, the PMs, the performers, the problems that we go after, and the technology that we and you, the performers, develop for us. Those snippets put together create a picture of DARPA's mission. The key mission of developing and demonstrating breakthrough technologies for national security. Everything from the internet all the way to mRNA vaccines. DARPA's been there with pivotal investments at the very beginning, not just to show what's possible, but to demonstrate it, to remove the risk of the possible, to show that we can do something that no one had ever thought of before, creating and preventing strategic surprise. So, how do we do this? Now, first of all, I'd like to start off saying that I'm actually the opening act for the next talk, the panel discussions. We have Phil White from Moderna, as well as Prabhakar Patel, who's the former CEO of LG Chem. They take a lot of the things that we do and they demonstrate it in actual practicality. Now, in this mission space, we have 6 offices at DARPA. Each office takes the same basic approach in terms of how we develop these technologies for national security applications. But we have slight variations depending on if it's a system office or an exploratory office that works more on the sciences. On the system side, you saw a lot from what was demonstrated from platforms for TTO. On the microelectronics side, there was a great presentation on the electronics development that DARPA is doing. But I'm representing the DSO, and I would like to present the approach that the DSO takes for pushing the limits of technology. DSO is the exploratory office at DARPA. We are there to imagine and build the things that do not exist. We take opportunities that we find from scientific discoveries, we invest in multiple scientific disciplines, and we focus on mission-informed research. We are there to create scientific surprise to support national security. So how do we do this? Well, looking at the portfolio of DSO, we invest where all of the other offices are at more. We are there to look one step ahead of where they are. Everything from vaccines, as I said, additive manufacture, optical elements, accelerator arrays, pharmaceuticals, high temperature materials. We try to explore all those new areas to see what is possible. And that's kind of the key. We are exploratory in terms of the nature of our research. Not that we just stop at the exploration. Everything we do has to end into a prototype, a demonstration. We have to show the art of possible. So how do we do that? Well, in DSO, I like to say that we're bound by 2 walls. All of the ideas, all of the projects we focus on are bound by 2 walls. The first wall is a scientific understanding, that we have to make sure that what we're presenting is actually scientifically possible. We're not trying to violate relativity. We're not trying to create a Maxwell's decision. Our first order calculation says, I can do this. That's all we need to start off with. We're not looking at it too deeply, but we need that to say there's reality in what we want to do. The second wall is understanding where the commercial sphere acts currently. What is the commercial state of the art? What can we currently do? What can we currently manufacture? And that also leads into the understanding what the problem space we need to attack is. And we are bound by these 2 walls in what we think of. Now, on the scientific side, we have organizations such as the National Science Foundation that sponsors exploratory research. They're trying to push the bounds of what we know, of what we are comfortable with. They are a nurturing organization. On the commercial side, you have commercial investment. They push for, this current state of the art based on investment rate of return. They're there to exploit the ideas that we generate. You have to have this balance of exploration and exploiting the ideas in a true innovative ecosystem. And that's really key. Now, DARPA falls in between there, and depending on which office, you could actually be somewhere along that spectrum. But DSO itself, we try to push the limits of technology towards that fundamental scientific understanding. We look at what's possible. We understand the link budgets. We understand those fundamental equations, and we look for new insights from that science. And from those new insights, we ask very simple questions. If we have a new idea, we ask, what if? What if we can actually do this? And also, how do I get there? We rely on you, the performers, to help us understand how to get there, as well as understand the implications of what we are trying to develop. And the better we understand the science, the better that we understand the commercial state of the art, the further we could push those technologies to their fundamental limits. And that is the goal of DSO. It's the goal of DARPA in general. Push technologies as far as we can. We're not simply looking to push along a given technology curve. We're not simply looking for small changes in the needle of where we are. We are looking to completely change what is possible. And to do that requires an agency such as DARPA and its culture. So one thing we have to be aware of is the R&D world is changing around us. If you look at the statistics for US R&D investments, as a percentage of total R&D investment, there's this balance between the exploratory research that the government sponsors and the exploitation research that the commercial world sponsors. They're both necessary, but there's been a dramatic shift. From the time when DARPA was formed, it was more focused on the exploratory side. But you look at it today, approximately 80% of US R&D funding is from the commercial sector. It is looking at how do you exploit the technologies for commercial application. It's a vibrant ecosystem. There was over $1 trillion of funding for startups and startup exits. There's probably another $2 trillion in private equity, merger acquisitions. It's a massive ecosystem. And innovation in this context is important in terms of investment rate of return. And the small businesses are focused on that commercial market. But it's a balance, remember, it's a balance. There were about 70,000 tech startups formed in the US last year. Most of those, I think about 56% of them, started out basically with zero cash. They're trying to figure out what is next. So from the R&D perspective, from that perspective of sponsoring the research, we understand the innovation is out there. The people is out there. It is a vibrant ecosystem. But they're looking at different timescales. They're looking at timescales of 6 to 9 months commercialization. While on the academic timescales, you're more interested in paper publications to show the art of the possible. DARPA has a timescale that's on the order of 3 to 5 years, where we take an idea from its fundamental concept, from that fundamental insight we could get from the science, and demonstrate that, show that it is possible with something we could show the people. Everything from spinal cord injuries, everything from platforms, the microelectronics, turning algae and sand into concrete, which was a phenomenal demonstration if anyone has seen that. We have to focus on that project. It takes time. So we understand the ecosystems out there. We understand what we need to do, but how do we leverage that? How do we tap into that ecosystem? And that's one of the things that DSO is tasked to look at. And we need 3 things, 3 basic things: people, ideas, and processes. People, we have the individuals at DARPA. Ideas, we also look for people from the performer side, and we also recruit you as individuals. And processes. Processes, it sounds a little strange, but it's an important part of what we do. If you're a fan of baseball and you've read the book Moneyball, there's a quote in there: "The first person through the wall gets bloody, always." And it's because it threatens the way of doing business. It turns what exists into dinosaurs. And DARPA's processes are there to enable every single PM to break through that wall over and over and over again without getting bloody. Because what we need to do has to change the world. It has to prevent those strategic surprises. It has to create those strategic surprises. That is the core of our being. And those processes are not bureaucratic processes. They are processes that let us continually hammer through that wall. But the people and ideas are an important part of it. And I'm going to be talking about that in the context of DSO and introducing 2 things that we're going to be demonstrating for DSO and introducing it to the community. And it's all focused on DARPA's culture of high impact R&D. Let's start with the people. DARPA has approximately 6 offices with approximately 100 people. These are exceptional technologists. They are PMs who were in the arena. They know that if they fail, it was because they failed while daring greatly. They are there for national service. They believe in the mission, and they want to push the bounds of what we could do. And these PMs, they spend approximately 4, maybe 5 years at DARPA. They give it everything that they can because they know they have that short tenure, and what they're trying to do is extremely hard. And this organization is focused on innovation. And we recruit our performers, right? We recruit people to come into DARPA to take that challenge, because it is a challenge. It's an exhausting challenge, but it is an amazing challenge to take on. But we have this turnover, and we always look for people from our performer base, from the government, people who have built things, people who have imagined things. They are the DARPA PMs of the future. But as we move along, we have to figure out how to continually bring new people in. So the first thing that I said I'll talk about is people. We're starting a new program called the DARPA Innovation Fellowship. This was announced approximately 1 month ago. It is an opportunity for early career scientists to spend 2 years at DARPA. It's not a fellowship that we sponsor outside, but we want to seed the next generation of PMs. We want to seed it with people that are coming out of their PhD program to understand that need for national service, that need to look at that 4 to 5 year timeline, to demonstrate what's possible, for them to take risks, for them to show that this is what the future should lie. So it's a 2-year program for early career scientists. It's not intended to be a short PM tour. It's not an internship under a PM. They're there to develop and manage a portfolio of high-impact exploratory efforts that we are developing within the office. So who are we looking for? We're going to grow this program to approximately 32 individuals, recent PhD graduates, probably within 5 years of your PhD. We'd like to get a mix of operational folks, people who were on the field, who understand how that technology is used, who understand what the problems that they face are. So we're also including military cohorts, hopefully another military active duty individual, and we're also looking at potentially 1-year sabbatical at DARPA. Now this does 2 things. Again, we need the people. The people are the core of DARPA. They're the ones that come in with the imagination. They're the ones that drive that technology to the limit that we need. So why are we targeting this early career group? Most DARPA PMs, as you can tell, were a little further along in our careers. We have a huge amount of experience developing the technologies, working on the programs, being on the operational stage. But this group itself, the young career group, they understand the technology well. They're the ones that we sponsor in grad school to build what we demonstrate. To all those things that you see that are just phenomenally amazing, that when I was out there just watching, I felt like I was a kid watching a musician, or a magician. They're the ones who developed for us. They know what's happening. And paradigm shifts often come from this group because they're not biased. They haven't had the failures over and over again. They aren't biased in towards what they think will succeed. And it also allows us to bring a long-term pool of diverse talent that can focus on national security. Again, it's a balance of this ecosystem of exploratory versus research that exploits that technology. This is trying to find the balance with people. So we launched this program approximately a month ago. We are currently recruiting. If you know folks that are interested, please go to the DSO webpage. There's plenty of information on there. The first cohort is expected to start in January of 2023. Every 6 months, we're looking at bringing in another 8 individuals. These folks will be looking at what the future should be. They're going to explore high-impact exploratory efforts. So the second part of it is ideas. Again, we need people, we need ideas. Ideas is a bloodline for any innovative organization. It doesn't matter if you're a university, a small business, a large business. Once that innovation pipeline of ideas stops, your lifeline stops. That's what allows us to keep on going. There are lots of ideas in the world. A few of them are good, but a true DARPA idea is really rare. But in order to find that true DARPA idea, we have to sort through lots and lots of ideas. For every 100 we see, if we're lucky, we'll find one great DARPA idea. But we need to find those ideas. And as I said, DARPA, we have 100 program managers to find those ideas. We have our performers to bring those ideas to us. And that's really important. We rely on the performers to be our eyes and ears to tell us what is possible. In DSO, we have approximately 12 program managers. If we are going to be the exploratory office, we have to catch a wide net. We have to scan the horizon for new ideas. As I showed earlier, it's a growing ecosystem out there. There are a lot of ideas out there. The pace of technology is evolving faster than before. So how do we find those ideas? Well, DSO, we have 2 basic methods. We look for ideas with a program type we call seedlings. Those are quick exploratory efforts that we fund universities, businesses, labs to tell us what is possible. I have this idea here. Can you give me some data? Can you show what this can do, because we think if we are successful in here, we could accomplish this mission, we could solve this problem. Those are quick, fast-paced efforts. Then from there, we grow to programs. Most of you are familiar with the large-scale programs that DARPA sponsors. Those are the 4 to 5 year efforts, maybe even shorter, 3 years. Pretty large efforts, high risk, high reward, where we're looking to really change the game. But there are lots of ideas out there. There are lots and lots of ideas out there. And we need to keep pace with this rapidly evolving world in order to find the next generation ideas. So how do we do that? We're starting another program, which we called Advanced Research Concepts, ARCs. So this is an experiment. The experiment is, can we capture and evaluate ideas quickly and do this in a very rigorous fashion to find those true rare DARPA ideas, the 1 in 100, the 1 in 1,000, because they're out there. And if we stop searching for our ideas, we will miss them. So ARC is going to be slightly different from programs and seedlings. It's meant to be a quick turn effort to capture lots of ideas. So in DSO, we will be launching a solicitation soon. That solicitation is an overarching solicitation. But under that, we're going to launch a number of topics each year. Right now, targeting about 8 topics a year, probably 2 a quarter. In each topic, we're going to ask a question. We're going to ask this what-if question. What if I could accomplish something? What does it enable? What can we get from that? We're going to ask that specific question on a topic of interest to DSO that we think there is a possibility there. We're going to release it to you, our performers. And it's going to be a streamlined application process. We're going to say, 5-page abstract. Tell us what you think about this. Tell us the background research of what you believe the state of the art is. Tell us where you think the commercial world, and more importantly, tell us the idea that you have that could solve that what-if question. 5-page abstract. Pretty simple. From there, we'll evaluate. If we like it, you'll move on to an oral presentation, because a proposal can be hard to really get that innovative feel, especially in something that has a lot of risk and has a lot of uncertainty. A discussion back and forth of what is your idea, because we are there to find the ideas. We are not going to let a good idea go untouched. Oral presentation, hey, we like it. We think that has validity. For each topic, we're planning on selecting, depending on the proposals we get, up to 30, possibly 60 ideas. That means 300 ideas annually. As was mentioned in the beginning, DARPA typically launches 50 new large-scale programs a year. This is going to increase that by a factor of 6 in terms of what we search for. Now, here's the catch. We like your idea. We think it's a great exploratory effort. We will fund one person for 1 year to work on that. Doesn't matter who that is, but we want people to sit back and really explore the idea in depth. It shouldn't be a side hobby. It shouldn't be something that you just do on the side. If you believe that idea can really change the world, you're going to work on it, because we will fund one person for 1 year. But after 6 months, maybe 12 months of review, we'll say, hey, your idea had some merit. Maybe we'll add some seedling funding on it. Maybe it could launch into the program. In this, basically, going back to the baseball analogy, we are going to be pitching 100-mile-an-hour fastballs right down the center. We telegraphed it with what that solicitation is. We are looking for those who could hit that ball out of the park. If you can, that's where the seedling funding comes in. Because we want to find the ideas, we want to find the good ones, and we want to exploit them. So there's also another limitation. We want that one person for 1 year, basically one FTE for 1 year. There's a limited funding range. We're going to target these solicitations, so once we say that's a good idea, we could get that contract in place in 2 weeks. We don't want to wait. If you have a good idea, we want you to start working on it now. So 2 weeks, however, 1 FTE for 1 year, but we're limiting the funding amount. Probably about, for 1 FTE for a university, I think Ohio State, it's probably 60, 70 K a year for a grad student, plus some summer months for faculty. But we're capping it at 300 K a year. 300 K a year is more than enough to pay someone's salary and their benefits and explore that idea. Everyone is open to apply to this, but there are limitations. Do you have a good idea? Are you going to put 1 FTE for 1 year on it? Could be 1 FTE for 1 year, or maybe 2 people working full-time for 6 months. We have flexibility. We're not prescribing it. We're interested in the idea, but it's capped at 300K. So you can imagine everyone from a senior grad student or a postdoc who've been working on a project saying, this works. I just need that 1 year before I can launch my business, and because I think I could solve that problem for DARPA that has national security implications. Pre-seed funding organizations, those 70,000 US startups a year. You know, This is a great place if you have that idea. Even large businesses, small businesses, this is meant to be an incubator of ideas for national security. So how do the fellows and the ARCs fit together? Well, they're together. Remember the exploratory ideas I said the fellows will be working on? It's this. The fellows will be in charge of the ARC program. So we're looking for individuals to be explorers, those young research scientists, to come into DARPA to show us what's possible. We're going to give them the tools of the ARC to explore everything is out there and tell us how is this going to change the world? How is this going to change national security? They are going to be running this program, telling us what the good ideas are, and telling us the things that we need to invest in. So if you've seen this, this is a takeoff of a mythical Shackleton ad from probably 100 years ago, if it truly exists. But this is what it is to be a DARPA PM, and this is what it's going to be a DARPA fellow. We are there to push the limits of technology. It's a difficult journey. There is constant risk of failure. The outcome uncertain. But if you succeed, you can truly change the course of history, the course of technology, into ways that we never seen before. If you're interested in the fellowship or you know someone who is, there's the email address below that. Just send your information and we'll follow up with you. The ARCs will be released in about a month or so, so look for that. We are literally trying to do two things: explore with people and explore with ideas. Following the sailing motif, all I need is a tall ship and a star to steer by. Our tall ships are the fellows. The stars to steer by are all the ARCs that we are going to launch. We need to explore, and we need to explore with ideas and people. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ranka. We'll take some questions now from the audience. First question, how do the ARC topics compare to other OT solicitations like AIEs and disruptioneering opportunities, or to seedling efforts?
So DARPA has a number of tools that it could use to pursue ideas, whether they're large-scale ideas such as program, they're smaller exploratory efforts like seedlings, AIEs, disruptioneerings. AIEs and disruptioneerings really tend to be more like smaller programs. This is meant to go by scale and speed. We want to do a large number, but we want to do them fast, that we have an OT contract that we could get signed in 2 weeks. It's going to provide quite generous IP rights. It's going to be open research, fundamental research. There are very few limitations. Our goal is to find ideas. We are not going to limit it by speed, and we're not going to be small at it. We're looking for large numbers. And that's the really key difference. They are all tools, but they have tools for a different effect.
Another question that's come in, is the focus exploratory research? How much do you expect to be accomplished at this level of effort?
It's going to depend on the topic itself and what is proposed. Again, it's the ideas that we're looking for. It is exploratory. We just don't know the answer. We have an inkling of what could be there, but we are looking for people to explore. So it's not just PowerPoint slides we're looking at, if that ends up being the question. We are looking for data. We are looking for simulations. We're looking for some tests. We want to show what is possible. So it's a little more than just saying, here's my idea, fleshed out a bit more. Show us something. Be very specific of what you can do.
Okay, and next question. What if we have a multidisciplinary team of 2 investigators? Would that be incompatible with your vision for one person for 1 year?
So we've been going back and forth internally about this. I've been pretty fixated on the one person for 1 year because in this day of age, people do not have the opportunity to explore ideas anymore, to sit back and to look at the sky and imagine what is possible. But we're not trying to be prescriptive, we're not trying to be limited, but we want at least 1 FTE for 1 year of however it's configured. If you're looking for multiple organizations, subcontracting, teaming to work with other folks, we just simply say this. Submit in 2 proposals, right? We are going to evaluate each one independently because we're looking for that idea. And we're not looking to build immediately a program out of it because we need to evaluate lots and lots of ideas. If you start getting into multiple team subcontracts, that slows things down. Focus on the idea. If you have 2 people that you need to work on it, submit 2 proposals.
Okay, the next question, what are the initial ARC topic areas?
So that'll be released hopefully in the next 2 weeks. I'll give some hints on the first one. It's looking at using quantum gases to simulate classical phenomena such as turbulence. These are exploratory. So in this case, it might be folks who understand the computational realm, folks who understand the quantum realm. That's an initial flavor of the topics that we're looking at. We're also looking at topics on rare earth refining. We're looking at topics at linguistics and semantics. We're looking at topics at antimatter propulsion. We're looking at topics of heterogeneous AI systems. There is no limit. This is a tool for us to search for ideas.
Following up on that question, here's another one. Are there particular non-traditional topics, communities, or areas of study that you are particularly interested in seeing participate in an ARC study?
It depends. So the way that we're going to come up with the ARC topics is going to be through the PMs. The PMs will figure out those are the areas that we need to look at, but also from the community. If the community has an area of interest that they think we need to explore, we'll explore it. But we need that connection to national security, right? We have to understand, where does this lead to? It isn't simply open-ended nurturing research. No, we're impatient. We're looking at what can this do? It has to answer that what-if question in terms of national security. And DSO is an extremely broad office. As I said, we work from everything from prosthetics, high-temperature materials, quantum computing, language, AI, you name it, that is what DSO does. For the most part, I would say there's nothing non-traditional in DSO's portfolio because everything is there.
Next question, can government lab personnel participate in ARC?
As long as you follow the guidelines, 1 FTE for 1 year, capped amount that the government will reimburse, and you, more importantly, you have a good idea that answers the ARC. We are not limiting who can perform on this. We are limiting the bounds so we can explore and we could explore fast. That's it.
Great, and will the topics have to show defense relevance?
Well, to some degree, we're there focused on national security. So it's a question of, can you think of the defense relevance, or can we, or can a partner think of the defense relevance? In the end, we have to understand, what are we doing for the warfighter? What are we doing to improve national security? We are not simply there to explore. We're going to be exploring with a specific goal in mind.
Next question, will the Innovation Fellows select the ARC ideas personally, or will there be a more formal source selection process for ARC ideas?
Once we form that ARC idea and we release it into the solicitation, it's the fellows to run with. They will choose what performers, what ideas they think should be funded. They will tell us what ideas they think need to get that additional funding. We are separating this from the program manager role for a reason. We want these individuals to explore. We want the program managers will be focusing on the higher level programs. This program, the ARC program, will be run by the fellows.
Next question, for untenured junior faculty, how will the DARPA fellowship affect the workload, as those faculty still need to advise students when they will work as a DARPA fellow?
So we in DSO have a number of faculty members that are on loan from their institution. They're taking 4 years off and they're coming to DARPA. I think it depends on the fellow, the area, the faculty, and the university. How can they continue to advise students? DARPA has been very flexible on this. They've allowed individuals to continue to advise students. But in the end, you're there for DARPA. You're there for a purpose. We will help figure out how to do that, but our goals are clear. Our needs are clear of what can be done.
Another question that's come in, will the Innovation Fellows manage selected projects themselves? I think you've answered that one.
I'd like to actually follow up on this. So maybe I should rephrase it slightly. They're not going to necessarily manage the programs. We are going to launch these 300 ideas at once. What we want the fellows to be is learn to be the technical technical innovators in that. Work with the performers, gather the data, analyze the data. I want every single fellow to have Python running on the computer. MATLAB's a little expensive, so let's go with Python. Every single fellow running Python on their computer. They're going to be running the algorithms. They're going to be looking at the data. One person, 1 year, you don't really manage them. Let them explore. But we're going to be there with the universities, with the labs, to see what is possible. Connect them to the defense applications. Understand at the end of each ARC topic, we want the fellows to put together reports starting off saying, what was the state of the art in the beginning? What was the commercial state of the art as well as the research state of the art? What did we fund? At the end of this exploratory effort where we had 30 or 60 individuals looking at this very exploratory idea, this very difficult idea, what do we think the next step is? Did we invest additional funding in this area? But what is the next step in terms of national security?
Next question, can you still submit your ARC idea if it is outside the announced topic areas?
Well, we haven't announced the topic areas yet, so you don't know if it's going to be outside the area. But nominally right now, we're sticking with this. We're going to focus on an area we're going to explore. There may be a time that we open it up more. We're not sure of this. DARPA is quite flexible. When we see an opportunity where we see a need, we will go there. But as for now, we're going to be sticking with those specific ARC topics. We have other tools. Remember, this is just a tool in the toolbox. We have seedlings. Each office has a BAA where you could submit, BAA stands for Broad Agency Announcement, where you could submit your ideas to. So that is another tool. It's not as restrictive as we want with ARCs, but it's a different mechanism.
Another question that's come in, what are the programmatics? I am thinking of travel and deliverable overhead if a PhD student independently wins one.
So we have this limit, so maximum 300K, but it's 1 FTE for 1 year. We also have limits in there, approximately 10K in ODC. So that includes any materials, any supplies you need. We are not going to pay for travel. We're not going to pay for publications or conference fees. It's simply saying we are going to make an investment. We're going to make a seed investment as an incubator on this idea. We are interested in evaluating ideas. So the other part, the other organization has to take care. But that's enough to pay for that person's time to go explore.
Since the fellows are recent PhDs, how will they know prior art when making selections?
In top of the fellows, we are building an advisory committee to work with the fellows. So these will be senior folks who have extensive experience within DARPA, within industry, within the R&D community to help advise the fellows. Some of the folks are well known within DARPA. They're well known outside. They aren't announced. But we do have other mechanisms to work with the fellows. This advisory committee, we also have the PMs that can always be used as a resource. The fellows can expect to travel a lot. If they aren't sure what the state of the art is, go visit a vendor. Go visit an operational command. Go visit the businesses. Expect the fellows to be traveling a lot to find out what is the state of the art, both on the technical side as well as on the commercial side.
Will the ARC reports be made public at the end of the project?
It's a good question. They'll be within the government. The government will have limited rights to the technology, so there are going to be restrictions on what we could publish out. It's definitely for government use, but we will have restrictions on what we could publish for the broader community.
Are innovation fellows taking the place of existing DARPA fellowships currently facilitated through the military services, both the 90-day and 1-year positions?
The fellowship program is like a tool. It's there for a purpose. The military fellowship program is a 3-month program where they could get exposure to DARPA. They're not working on these type of efforts, so they're very distinct. Similar to the 1-year positions, I think you might be referring to the I-2O postdoc. That is outside of DARPA. These are meant to be in DARPA because these fellows, we want them to understand this innovation ecosystem. We want them to understand high reward research. That is risky. We want them to understand how to work with DARPA, how to work with the DoD, how to work with universities, how to work with small businesses, large businesses, labs. Because at the end of the 2 years, we want to launch these individuals out into the world and have them act as a force multiplier, where they could go out in the world and bring those experiences that they were trained at DARPA out into the world and build up the community of additional groups, additional people that want to work with the DoD, that are interested in national security. And 10, 15 years down the line, we'll have a list of people that will be knocking on their door saying, maybe you're interested in coming back to DARPA as a program manager. And
Great, well, thank you. We've got one final question here for you, Dr. Ranka. What happens at the end of an ARC study? Will there be options for sequential efforts?
So the initial ARC is, again, as I said, we're throwing 100-mile-an-hour fastballs right down the center. We want to find out which ones can hit it over the fence, right? We don't want to stop there. There's a reason why we're doing it. We want to find those good ideas. So after 6 months, maybe 9, 12 months, if the fellows believe that a specific idea shows merit, that progress is being made, we have the option to issue another OT contract, maybe add in another $500,000 to expand that effort. We expect to see that maybe about 10% of the time. So if we fund 300, hopefully at least 10% of that, we will be able to say, that was an interesting idea. I think I'm going to take that to the next step. Of that, maybe another 10%, so maybe 3 ideas, we hope that are good enough that we could launch into full programs. We do not believe that ARCs are just simply there to answer a question and write a report. Our goal is to find those new thrust areas, to find those new technologies. If we're going to scan the horizon, if we find something, we're going to grab onto it. So we're going to look at a large number, but the ones that we find that have promise, we are going to run with. We are not going to stop.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Ranka, and thank you for your engaging questions.